Welcome back. So now that you kind of have an idea about what the mean stack is, let's try and talk about how request would be made to get data and show it inside a browser. Because the real goal of building this application is actually making a single page application that can present and manipulate data from the browser so that you and I can actually start working with data that we can then show, work with, change, whatever we want to do inside the browser, right? So what we're going to do is, as soon as the browser requests something, like it says, I want to show a list of users here, or a list of customers. Let's say a list of customers. I'm going to, inside Angular, I'm going to build a component that can present these customers for me. So think of, I'm going to build a component like this. I might even go down and break it down to a smaller component if I want to, but we'll get into that later. For now, I'm just going to build one big component to show all the data. So that's what the components are for. I'm going to build a component. That component is going to tell me what HTML, what CSS, and what JavaScript to actually show and use inside the browser. Now that component is going to request, using a service, it's going to request some information. It's going to say, I need some information to actually show a list of customers. And the service is going to say, okay, what I'm going to do to get that information for you, dear component, is I'm going to make a request, an HTTP request that we can send over the World Wide Web, or www, right? And that request is going to contain information about where to go. It's going to add some headers about how will I get there, what's the end, where's the REST API available, where can I grab the data that I want to get for you, right? So dear component, I know where to go. Let me go and find you the data. And it's going to create this envelope of information. There's a lot of information, we'll dive into that later, but it's going to send this over the wire, and then it's going to, in the end, say, this is the server I'm looking for, right? And that server is going to, the Node.js server has Express, and that Express server is going to say, hey, somebody wants some data. Sweet! I'm going to go to Mongoose, which is going to be a helper for talking to the Mongo database. So Mongoose is going to say, oh, you want the customer data. Right, I can get that from the Mongo database, and that's going to go down here and grab the data from Mongo. Mongo is going to say, well, Mongoose, here's the data that you want. Can you please pass it back to whoever wants it? And Mongoose is going to say, yeah, I'm going to send it to Express. Express is going to say, I want to send this as a response, an HTTP response to the guy who wanted to get the customer data. It's going to be sent back over the www. The www is going to send it to the service, and the service is going to grab it and say, yee, I got my data. That data is then going to be passed back to the component, and the component knows how to take the data, create some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then present it in the browser to the user who wants it. That's kind of the way it works. That's the way of the internet. We make small requests, responses, and we pass them back and forth. Of course, we use either XML or JSON to convert this data, but that's, again, it's lower level, and we'll talk about that later. Right now, this is how you would actually get data to the browser all the way from the REST API. But again, let's start out by focusing on Angular. So let's dive into the Angular component. See you in the next lesson where we'll talk more about Angular.